Yay!
Hello and welcome to Oakland Creates, our featured artist interview. We have Shani Ealey, and so tonight, just gonna ask a few questions, introduce to some, and reconnect with others, so that we can have a cool discussion about your new book, new zine. I'm super excited to get a copy myself. And so what I'm going to do is quickly go over what Oakland Creates is about and what we're going to do moving forward tonight. And so Oakland Creates started in 2015 as a way to provide opportunities for Black and Brown artists to showcase their work in a safe space and that not only prioritize African, Indigenous, and Latino culture, but that celebrates diversity and sought a fair exchange for creativity and artistic expression. Oakland Creates developed into a mini zine fest, comics fest, showcasing zines, art, and comics from new and emerging artists in the East Bay, Oakland area. Primarily giving space to traditionally underrepresented voices, Oakland Creates also gives space to creators who work to build a conscious, uplifting, and holistic community. I'm just quickly go over our safer space policy. Thanks. Oakland Creates is committed to providing a safe space and inclusive environment for everyone, regardless of gender, gender identity and expression, sexual orientation, disability, physical appearance, body size, race, or religion. We will not tolerate harassment at Oakland Creates events, virtual or not, in any form. Anyone violating the safe space policy may be sanctioned or expelled from our space or the event at the discretion of Oakland Creates Art, Comics, and Fest organizers or volunteers. So now I am going to share my screen really quickly, so bear with me. Let's see. Sorry about this. Just one quick second. Bear with me. Cool. Here we go. And can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Nice. All right. Like I said, we are blessed to have Shani Ealey with us tonight. An awesome artist, awesome person, which is even more important to moi. So thanks for being with us, Shani. And like I said, I'm just gonna quickly introduce you. So Shani is a spirit chasing, forest wandering Black woman who spends a lot of time dreaming up new worlds through painting, the written word, and collage making as a way to heal and transform intergenerational patterns of harm, neglect, self-negation, and trauma. Shani has 7 years of experience providing communications support to racial and social justice organizations. And after quitting a particularly toxic racial justice org, Shani's art making practice was born. Shani's work is greatly informed by the desire to learn and practice rituals that center the values of African earth-centered spiritual traditions. Shani's work seeks to unearth what has been buried as a result of assimilation and honor, celebrate, and affirm the ancestral practices that help folks of the African diaspora to remain grounded and connected to who we are. I want us to have room and space that is expansive and creative, where we can dream, envision, and manifest the kind of rhythms and love exchanges that nurture and feed us plentiful. Welcome, welcome, Shani. Thank you. And I'm going to let you share your own screen. Like I said, I'm excited to see your new work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Avi. So kind. I feel so honored and excited to be a part of this. And I didn't know that Oakland Creates was founded in 2015. So it's been around for a minute, and that's amazing.
Fun.
And so let me see. I'll share. No, that's not how we share it.
You see it at the top of the screen.
Mm-hmm. And then I'll do this. And then I need to minimize this and share. No, no, no. Okay, here we go.
You got it?
Yeah. All right, cool. So so this very interesting year, but I thought that maybe what I would do was kind of flash back to 2019 and just kind of show some of the work from 2019, how that led into sort of this emphasis on the orishas, and then how that also then connected to the beautiful work that's been coming out of Misha's creation with Lovecraft Country.
Awesome.
And so, and then also I know that you said like only 10 to 15 minutes, so feel free to, if I'm not making any sense.
Oh no, you have up to 30, 40 minutes.
Oh wow, that's so interesting. Okay, so yeah, I maybe didn't prep for a 40-minute thing, but we could just talk.
Well, that's including some questions from me.
So. Okay, thank you, because I didn't know. All right, so the first slide is some of the images that was coming out of Tales from the Garden of Vortexes. And so this was a zine that I created in 2019. And also I will say that I'm a little bit, I really don't know what I'm doing, but really what is really important for me to do is to be able to express myself in the way that feels natural to me and is accessible to me. And so one part of that is writing. I consider myself, writing was sort of my first first entry point into art expression. Okay. And then sort of drawing and painting came about in 2013. So anyways, Tales from the Gardens of Vortexes was my attempt to merge some of the storytelling aspects with the visuals. And so essentially, let me see if I went this way. Okay, yeah, three short stories in conversation with themes of family, intergenerational trauma, technology, and spirit. And so those are sort of the themes. The first one was called No Speak Song, and essentially kind of followed a young girl child who lives with a couple of generations of her family. So her auntie, her mother, and her grandmother, and trying to grapple with what it means to feel completely disconnected from these figures while also sharing a home. And then I tried to add some like speculative fiction aspects to it by having her develop this relationship with these growing vortexes that were in the backyard and somehow connected to her mother and her nana. So that's kind of a little piece on that story. Tales from the Garden of Vortexes or the next story in that series talks to Sino. And so these images here were my interpretations of Sino. And Sino is essentially a person who lives in a sort of dystopian future. And I think this is 2069. Humans have gotten to the point where they're not ingesting food through their mouths, but everything is happening through ports in their arms. And so basically Sino goes through this sort of transformative experience in the dream world through disconnecting from these technological ports that keeps her connected to an overarching system. And so basically the theme with that is just about, you know, unplugging, of course, from all of this and connecting back to the intuitive aspect of ourselves. And that I was trying to represent through sort of my obsession with these owls. I'm like in love with barn owls. And then the last sort of story in that series was called The People's Prayer, and takes place about 300 years into the future. And this is from 2019, so 300 years into the future from that year, and talks about a people who have found freedom and thrivance by living underneath the surface. And so, and also have somehow learned to master these vortexes that we sometimes find ourselves spinning in. And for me, the vortexes are like a physical manifestation of a thing, but they're also stemming from just like our own sort of cycles or spirals that we find ourselves spinning in around shame, guilt, I don't know, unhealed conflict with loved ones and things like that. So that was Tales from the Garden of Vortexes. And the other thing to kind of share about this too, was that I was also getting really interested in like Orisha stories, and then also just particularly the connections of the Orishas to the forces of nature. And so a lot of these images, at least from the tales, are stemming from the imagery that I would associate with Alegua. And Alegua is the deity of the crossroads. And so in many ways, we can look to that deity in terms of the opportunities that we have accessible to us, regardless of what paths are presented before us. And so we can talk more about, you know, feel free to ask me questions for clarity purposes. Okay, and so then from Tales from the Garden of Vortexes, I had a really beautiful opportunity to spend a couple weeks in Cuba at the end of 2019. And so that was a couple months after that zine. And, you know, to this day, like clearly, I mean, it's in the art. I haven't been able to let go of that experience, and the feeling of freedom and connectedness to a people that that I'm not necessarily from. Like, I'm not Afro-Cuban, but going to Cuba felt almost like sort of like a family reunion, just the way that everyone kind of welcomed and received Black Americans, I'd say. So went to a few different places. There was a couple of museums that had a pretty significant impact. Casa de Africa, and then Museo de los Orishas. And those two museums was able to connect with a lot of really great people. But one of the things that really stood out to me was just the presentation of the Orishas and how these Black deities were revered and respected across the island, and how it wasn't just about, oh, these are things that we respect and honor in a museum, but this is our way of life. And so you see it in the food, you see it in the conversations that you're having with people, you see it in the way that they dress, you see it in the art on the streets, and then the way that they ritualize the honoring of Yemaya, which was just mind-blowing to me. I just didn't really understand it, and I'm still trying to grapple with it. The other thing that I'll say though too is that I also, while I was spending time there, felt incredibly honored also to have found home in Oakland as well, because there are a lot of amazing culture keepers who are doing a lot of great work around uplifting Afro-Indigenous spiritual practices. And so to see like this really strong connection between Cuba and Oakland also felt kind of mind-blowing for me. And so after some of those experiences, I knew I was like, I need Orishas with me. Like, I need this kind of reminder. I need to see this every day. I cannot forget this. The other thing that I'll say too, before I go on with the slides, is that Cuba is like super disconnected because of like racist, really extremely racist patriarchal capitalist policies that the US has implemented. And so there's the embargo in place and basically just keeps them isolated. And so connecting this way that we connect here, like online and through our apps and all that stuff, it's a lot harder to do that over there. And in a way, it's like, dang, you don't have access to the things that we have access to here. And at the same time, I think that there is a level of freedom and mental spaciousness that comes with not being so tapped into the digital world in the way that we are here. Just as I'm recognizing that it can be a tool for like, you know, connection and financial freedom and things like that. I don't want to lose like the power that comes with like in person, seeing people in the real world.
Right. I wanted to ask you about that, but I didn't want to interrupt you. So I'll save that question for later, because there's definitely a aesthetic that seems so almost like a time capsule, because when you recognize the embargoes in place, and so they are in some ways decades behind us in terms of style and fashion and culture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You seem to have captured some of that in your work. So, but I want to hear the rest of your slideshow. But I
Okay.
definitely see what you're talking about.
Cool. Awesome. So yeah, so one of the other things was at the Museo de los Orishas, they had like 32 or 33 different sort of like statues dedicated in honor to the Orishas. And that was incredible to see, one, because at least prior to going to Cuba, I was familiar like with like the common seven, maybe. And so I was like, wow, like they really sat here and spent time with all 30 plus of them. And I honestly think that within the Ifa Orisha tradition, there may even be like 400 plus. Don't quote me. But it was nice to just see an expanded view of like all of them. The other thing that I held on to as well was that a lot of the deities represented the water element. And as a person who has like 4 placements in Pisces, I was like, oh, this is my jam. Like, y'all are my people. Nice. And so I wanted to, coming back from that trip in January, for me, the focus was, okay, let me pick, let me choose 6 to 7 orishas that specifically are associated with the oceans and the rivers and the streams and the rains. And let me just spend time with that. And so these first 3 here are a little bit of that. And so the one with the hat and the longer hair is Yameya, mother of the salt water, so the surface of the ocean. The Orisha in the middle is Alegua, and usually they're considered to be sort of like the messenger of the Orishas, and also the guardian of the crossroads, and the master of Nomo, which is the word. So for folks who are like working with throat chakra issues, you know, I like to consider myself one of those people. It's nice to connect with that energy to kind of, speak freely. And then the third is Olokun. And Olokun, like the way that I came into knowing Olokun, usually sometimes folks will put the two together, Yemeya and Olokun. I like to separate them because one, Olokun is more so associated with the deep floors, the depths of the ocean. And in my opinion, I mean, and honestly, I guess it could apply to Yemeya as well, but it feels like Olokun is really like the holder of the ancestors, and sort of the protector of the souls that of our people who we lost during the crossing over. And so that's who these three images are. Yeah, so that's just a little bit of, I guess, the process. These were done on canvas paper, and then eventually moved to the boards. And yeah, this is just a little bit about Alegua and some of the things associated with this deity. And I wanted to share these three images to just kind of show the ways in which, I don't know, Alegua has been in the work. And so to the far, what is this, left with the flowers and the sparkly hair, this was done in mid-2019. And again, like I'm seeing the energy of Alegua as like opening, expansiveness, and a reminder that there are multiple roads and that, we have the ability to choose which direction we go in. And so even when we get trapped in feelings of stuckness, it's like a reminder that there's stuckness, but you could just look to the other path. There's another path that you could go to. Okay, and then here's Yemeya. I guess the other thing to share too is that, so sad, but there's two people, incredible people, Ali and Toshia, organized or curated a beautiful exhibit at Soma Arts called Unbound Roots. And a lot of these pieces were in that exhibit, but we didn't get to have it because of shelter in place stuff. And so there was like an online virtual showing, but it's not the same thing, right. But that's where they were. That's where they were. So this is just a little bit more about Yemeya. And then here's a quote from Yeye Louisa Tish. And Louisa Tish wrote Jambalaya, which is a really good sort of intro book into a lot of this, especially around developing personal rituals, for healing and for just further developing your intuition. But she says, gaze upon the waters of Yemeya for your own self's sake. Perform rituals on the ocean at sunrise and midnight for your healing. Watch her shimmering in the light of the full moon and be renewed. And so I like Yeye Tish. She's very poetic and very soothing, listening to her speak. Okay, so that's more of Yemeya. That's a little bit of Olokun in the process there. Wow, so interesting. When I talk, it sounds like I've been busy, but it doesn't feel like that. But there was at the Soul House, beautiful friend Ave, who also does Keep It Diasporic and does a lot of work around documenting and taking photos of the diaspora, specifically Cartagena, and also the African diaspora in the Philippines. We, I guess, collabed on a really big mural of Olokun, which is really beautiful. And I don't think I put that on there, and that's so rude. Because that would have been nice to see, but it was a really great thing to do in the midst of just all this uncertainty. And so being able to connect with her and do a bit of like honoring the divine feminine in the midst of all of this has been nourishing for me.
Where's the mural located?
So it's at Soul, and Soul was a collective house that is across the street from the East Arts Alliance off of 23rd. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah. So it's mostly like that. And then what happened?
It looks like you went into Inktober, or is there a gap is there a gap that we should know about in the summer?
I know, that's what I'm trying to figure out. So yeah, I think the only other thing would have been the Olocone mural. And that would have been dope. But yeah, I guess this is what comes next. So yeah, I was feeling so I first tried to participate in Inktober last year. I did not finish. I got really stressed out and I was like, how are people really out here doing this? And especially the folks who are doing it all out with the colors and the painting. I was like, y'all are doing this every single day. But
It's fun. I've done it. I don't do it anymore because the founder of Inktober turned out to be a sleazeball.
right, I was hearing all of this drama. Was he trying to capitalize on people's monies or didn't?
No, he trademarked Inktober after years of telling us to tag all of our work with Inktober. We can no longer use Inktober on any materials that you plan on selling. So if you've made a book, you've made a zine or a print or anything, and it has Inktober on it, then you're gonna get a cease and desist letter.
Inappropriate.
So a lot of people have, published a lot of work using that word Inktober, and now it's you're subject to be sued for copyright infringement after years and years of him telling us to use it.
Yeah, that's disrespectful. So I'm
And
wondering.
so he also got caught up in drama with a creator over how to draw a book. Mm-hmm. So this brother Alfonso Dunn created a book for beginners, how to draw with ink. Mm-hmm. And he pretty much Jake Parker seemed allegedly, I don't want to get sued, allegedly plagiarized Alfonso's book. And there's a video on YouTube about it. I don't want to waste any time talking about it, but yeah, people know about it.
Trifling. That's okay. Well,
allegedly trifling.
Allegedly. Okay. Well, I could just erase Inktober.
Well, you're not selling it, so I think you're safe. Or are you?
I didn't put Inktober in the title.
There you go. That's all you need to worry about. Cool. Allegedly.
Out of control. Okay. But yeah, so Inktober happened. It's the first one, or my first time doing a 31-day, 31 drawings thing. Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited. I'm looking at your drawings of Hippolyta, and I'm so excited. I can barely contain myself.
Look at you. Yeah, so this happened. Lovecraft Country happened, I don't know, in September or whatever. And it was a wrap. Like this Hippolyta situation. So first of all, like Lovecraft has been the little bit of bright light that I've really enjoyed in this 2020 situation. I wasn't expecting them to do what they did. And I'm not saying that they did everything right, but they sure did do a lot of things where I was like,
They did that.
Right. And so watching Hippolyta for the first time, like mouth was just open the whole entire time. I wasn't prepared to feel so seen, but then also to see all of my mother's line in that
Right.
storyline as
Right.
well. And so that also felt a little bit like healing for me, because I felt like I was able to have a more compassionate view towards some things. You know what I mean? So yeah, so then I was like, okay, I get it. So then it just made sense. So I saw Name Yourself, that beautiful, glorious Black woman with a big fro yelling at her, telling her, "You're not in prison. Just can you name yourself? Can you just think, who are you?"
Right.
I was like, that's what I need, like, every day. That's what I need. And so for me, that episode was about like inner child work. It was about rediscovering the inner mother in you. It was about offering compassion to maybe the mothering figures in your life or not in your life, you know what I mean? And so then it just became about writing affirmations. And so in this zine, Name Yourself, it's not 31. I don't think I put all of the images in the zine, but it's like maybe 20 or so. And so it's 20 of the images and then 20 sort of affirmations to read along with them.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. And so let me see. I don't know what time it is, but I can read this one.
Time.
Okay. This one, I said, I name myself fearless, mirror gazing daily, holding my shadows in light with care, with tenderness, with forgiveness. I name myself courage, courage to burn patterns that interrupt cycles of self-negation, courage to step into and fully direct this gifted vessel. And so it's just like a lot of that kind of stuff. Like I
Powerful.
really need to hear these things. And so a lot of this is definitely self-inspired, but I think that others could also get a little bit. Look at the bow though. Like what is happening?
Oh, so badass.
Episode is out of control. And so this one reads, I name myself queer, gender fluid, bi, gender expansive, Owen Kali, Lilith, Ayanwu, form changer. I name myself intuitive, a seer, dreamer, lover, listener of what's beneath, Olokun's child. I name myself number one keeper, holder, protector, champion of me, my feelings, my body, my skin, my identity, my peace, my sexuality, my desires. And then I think I
snap my fingers.
like oh yes, I think that got cut off. But yeah, I was in love with this person. And then that scene where Hippolyta turns into Orinthia Blue and then they're twirling in the freaking galaxy.
Yep.
Yeah, that was medicine, y'all. That was great. Okay. And there she go with Josephine Baker, which was cute, so my little interpretation. I name myself wonderfully imperfect, gorgeously flawed, beautifully uncut, capable and bound to make mistakes, and I celebrate that awareness. I name myself not superhuman, and I give thanks for the messages that brings.
Ooh, that touches me right there. I name myself not superhuman. I need to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
You preaching tonight, girl.
Yeah. This part though, so she's talking to Josephine. They're having their little moment. And then she like names herself Hippolyta and then she's like screaming. And then like we're in, I don't know, way with the Dahomey warriors right before they're getting ready to like tackle like colonizers. And it's just so deep to me, like it's so deep to me that these kinds of stories, it took so long for these kinds of stories to like have like a mainstream platform or audience.
Yes.
Because like, how are you, like, our little girls, okay, when I was young and coming up, I wasn't learning about the all-female military regiment that was like battling colonizers. Like,
Right.
while we were also dealing with what we were doing with like in the, what you call it, in the Americas. It just feels so, you know, they do this on purpose.
Right. Right.
They do this on purpose. It's so, it felt really beautiful to see this scene. And even though it was a bloody one, it was one of the scenes that was more cathartic, whereas some of the other ones I also had some challenges with, but this was a good one.
Right.
Good one.
But I feel like this is when you can put yourself in the space so much easier. Like you said, it's cathartic. It's kind of like how guys like Django, where they feel like they can feel that vengeance, right? And for us, that's a kind of, that's a problematic film too. But you know what I mean. But you can put yourself in there, in that scene as your place.
So then here she is, as she names herself Discover, after she had her heart to heart with what's his name? George?
Uncle George.
Uncle George. He was trying to play her for 2 seconds, but I'm glad that he like got it together and was like, okay, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
I did that. But yeah, so this last one, I named myself Magic Unleashed, Seeds Sprouted, Candles Sparked, Locks Undone, Hands in the Air, Flying on Wheels, Heart Full, Heart Learning, Heart Beaming. And that's kind of, that's the flow of the zine. And you know, I'm proud of myself, I guess. You know, I'm happy that something happened this year. It's just been interesting to know or have inspiration, and as much as I appreciate the way that people have made the online thing work, it for me, it hasn't felt as accessible. This feels accessible, and I really appreciate it. And I just haven't been able to really plug in that way.
Right.
And so I guess like still trying to figure it out. So I do appreciate the time.
But I think it's a matter of, we're so used to looking in each other's eyes or being able to reach out and touch somebody or get an idea of or sense of tone and mood because we're so used to being in the same space that now you have to pivot and shift to online where sometimes you're not sure of tone. Even though we're on a Zoom call and video, not everyone has their video on, or
right.
Some people are great poker players and you can't tell what's on their face if it's long distance, or you know what I mean. So it's not quite the same. So I can understand in particular spaces it's hard to read and understand if someone is on the same page as you know what I mean, or you can even sometimes you pick up energy
right
that, obviously there's no way to do that electronically. Like people can totally mask a lot of stuff. I won't, go into that, but you know what I mean?
I do. I really do.
So I have a few questions for you though.
Okay, what do you want me to do? Do I unshare?
You can unshare or you can keep, that's an awesome picture. You can keep it up there. But yeah, go if you want. I think people might want to see our faces. So if you unshare, they can see us.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool.
So I do have a couple of questions about your origin story because you're a superhero. So where are you originally from?
Yeah. So I was born in Stockton. So I am Central Valley.
Shout out Central California.
So I'm from Stockton. My mom is from Stockton. My dad's from Vallejo. And then both my mom and my dad's people, or my mom's people specifically, are from Mississippi and migrated to Oakland, honestly. And so it's been interesting to come here. So I went to SF State, which is funny. I've been watching some of the other interviews, and it seems like a lot of us came out of SF State. But yeah, I went to SF State 2007,
Nice.
and then been living out here since 2013. And what's so funny is, like, I don't know, just running into my mom's people, and I don't even know it until after the fact. And so I'm like, what is happening? I literally ran into a cousin I didn't know was my cousin at the Malanga Center. And I was like, how? Who are you?
How did you end up starting that conversation? Did you have similar last names, or you have the same last name?
No, we were at some family situation. And then I was like, I saw you at a dance class. So I don't know. That was funny. But either way, I definitely feel like the Bay is home, and Oakland has been just kind of everything, honestly. And so was going through like a lot of interesting hard periods that I won't really go into, but just felt like Oakland was the place where I was able to kind of redefine and ground and center myself after a lot of bullshit.
Oh, okay, got you. So, I mean, I really enjoy the texture and the patterns in your work, and I'm trying to formulate this question in a clear, concise way. So, how does the African aesthetic, specifically spiritual, like, there's a lot of various fabrics and feathers and lace and leather and beads and cowrie shells and bones and brass. So you've done an incredible job representing that in a 2D plane with paint. And so I'm wondering, how did you come to that that point? Like that it's just so incredible, the detail, but just also the ability to give a sense of something that you want to reach out and touch. Is it a layering of different patterns and shit? Like, how are you coming to that aesthetic? What's your process for that?
So I think, I mean, I feel like the style of my art has changed significantly over the years. And yeah, that I'm trying to tell you, that Cuba trip, I think that we all need to be visiting places frequently and understanding the Black experience outside of this context. I really, 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 really do. And so I guess I feel a lot inspired by artists who are doing this work. I think when some of the textures that you're talking about is a lot just inspired by the clothing, the vibrancy of the colors and the clothing, and wanting that upliftment to be here, present as well. I think also, okay, I feel like there's so many things coming to my head. When I started painting, after quitting a really bad job, I was also living in a really dark studio and felt like I couldn't afford anything else. And so then felt depressed about that. And so getting to the point where I was like, oh, I think I should just paint, and I should just keep painting, and starting to see those colors replace what was a really dreary internal sort of environment. Also felt like a little bit of, I don't know, feng shuiing situations. I don't know. And then I did like minor in Africana studies and did go to grad school for African American studies. And so some of that, I guess, cultural aesthetic is feeding into the art as well. So really inspired by Ghanaian Adinkra symbols, really inspired by this artist. I believe he's Nigerian. I think it's Laulu Simbanjo. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but he did the sacred art of Ori, and a lot of
Okay.
his work plays with like symbols and images, which I really like. I'm trying to think of who else. Um, if we're specifically just talking about the orishas, the imagery just within each deities are so rich. So one, like the orishas are like personifications of the nature elements, and so one, if you're thinking about that, there's so much to pull from there. But
Right.
on top of that, they have like colors associated with them. They
Okay.
have shells or foods that are specific for each deity. And so I try to bring that all in there so that what I paint ends up being like I don't know, a visual reminder card of what this is and what they
Okay.
represent. The other thing is that recently I've been doing these symbols in the back, which I guess I'm sort of calling like, I don't know, like just kind of sealing the painting with
Mm,
intentions. And
okay.
so the Dinkra symbols that I feel like I was trying to put into the work a lot this time was, of course, around the waters, but then also around fortitude and protection.
Wow.
Um, and so I wanted to feel safe. Like everything was feeling effed up. Like it was just bad. At least I'm
Right.
thinking about that March, April time period where it was just like, wait, we ain't never experienced this kind of situation before.
Oh, wow.
Um, and so being able to wake up um, and tap into that space, which is very like uplifting and nourishing and nurturing. Like for me, I have a lot of like inner child work to do. And so stepping into that zone of
Building a
sealing those
world.
it's really all about inner mothering for me. Inner
Okay.
mothering.
Just love how brave you are, but also it seems intentional on ignoring traditional um, ideas around color palette and color play, and going with your intuition and working from within, which is like my ultimate goal to be able to do myself. So I guess that's why it resonates so much with me, because I see just the brave, um just what's the word I'm looking for, just F it. I'm gonna put down what I don't know if the ancestor, the universe is telling me to put down. If it doesn't make sense in the moment, it will when I'm finished, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm,
I'm just gonna put these patterns and colors, just like when we dress ourselves. I'm gonna put these stripes with this plaid and flowers, and
mm-hmm,
we normally wouldn't do that, but then you put it all together and it looks fly, and you're like, oh, okay, I can rock with that. And I feel like that's the approach you seem to take with these paintings. It's like
mm-hmm,
textures and colors and patterns that you would normally wouldn't think would go together sort of
mm-hmm,
work so well together. And like I said, they're reminiscent of a different place, a different time. Like when you talked about Cuba and then you showed those paintings, I could totally see the sky or the sunlight. Different places have a different mood
right.
to them. And so I felt like
Yes.
the
Uh,
architecture, the oh god, what is it called? Just this the hyper the flourishes, or the architecture with the super detailed, almost Islamic
mhm,
tiles and stuff in
mhm,
your paintings. And I'm like, I've never been to Cuba, but these paintings make me think of the architecture there and the old streets with the stones and the
mhm,
cobbling. And I'm like,
mhm,
that's amazing that you're able to pick up that. And I could just almost totally see the old cars on the street
mhm,
and people wearing, you know what I'm saying? The
mhm.
fashion that you see in photographs and stuff. You
Right.
captured all that without just drawing a photorealistic painting of that. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Just the energy is there. and it's based on the textures and the color and the palette choice you use. So I'm so like in love with your ability to do that. And when you say that you're building a world out of the necessity to get out of your surrounding, your immediate surrounding, like, man, that's so amazing. It's awesome. Like you're building portals. You don't even know it.
I received that. Thank you so much. That's really affirming. Yeah, I have a, I guess we all have things, the internal things going on, but I don't feel, are still trying to own the artist's title. Because I didn't go to school for it, I do feel kind of like a fraud. I'm like, I did not go to school to do this. And I don't know composition. I tried to take a fundamentals class, and I want to try it again. But I just
selling yourself too short, baby. You are a healer. You are a minister, right? And you're bigger than the artist, because what you're doing is so much, like you said, internal work for yourself, but that ends up working for other people too. So to say you're artist is kind of selling yourself short, right? If we're talking about building community and serving others, like what heals you heals others. So I mean, artist might be too small of a title for you. I'm really serious. Because we don't think that of ourselves, but other people, pick up on that and are drawn to you because of those things. Which is, I'm having the same thing of accepting that too. When people tell me my work touches them, I'm like, okay, get away from me, weirdo. Like, what are you talking about? And like, oh, okay. I'll accept that. I'm doing something right.
You have to, because you're calling it out all the way. And I'm like, I need it. Oh my gosh. We are struggling in these workplace situations, especially these traditional type settings, like really suffering. And part of this journey is also about trying to figure out how to not do that,
And okay, so my next question, let's see. Do you find it hard to have generate a conversation and a dialogue? Are folks open to talk about trauma and intergenerational wounds, or like you said, working on your child and yourself? Are people open to having those conversations?
So yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it depends. Like if you're in like healing spaces, yes. I feel like if you're in queer spaces, yes. But not everybody wants to talk about these things. And what real. I think about, it is real. I think, oh gosh. I know that I guess I'm trying not to be complicated, but not everybody receives it. Not everybody receives it. Not everybody receives it. And sometimes I get, maybe written off by some of the family members as like, that's just Shani doing that thing again, that thing. And so I don't know. That's hard because I do feel like part of the like who's the audience question, it is for them. I want y'all to engage with this, or at least like kind of see, and which is also why I appreciate the Hippolyta episode, because we're looking at a woman who's like traversing through life in the 50s, reimagine her whole entire being several times over. I felt like that's an opportunity for some of the, maybe the struggles that we have with some of the Gen X people, and so that episode felt like is a really beautiful opportunity and opening to have that dialogue. But if I'm just trying to talk to somebody who has been raised a Christian for all their life, like, oh, can I talk to you about these Orishas? That's not the entry point.
Right.
They're not gonna receive.
I think we talked about that before. Like that. No, fam. That's not gonna work.
It's not gonna work.
You just blew up their whole brain. It's gone. Shattered. I had a conversation with the lady, I think she's Jehovah's Witness, who wanted to witness to me. And I brought up the fact that, there are books of the Bible that aren't in your Bible, and there's different Bibles. And that messed her up. She was like, could not believe it. I like to troll Jehovah's Witness. I ain't gonna lie.
Do you?
Oh, because you want to have a conversation. Let's have a real conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I like different religions, so I've studied different religions. But when you're proselytizing your own and you don't know anything about religions of the world, I kind of have a problem with that. You know what I mean? Because I can go round and round with the best of them, but then if you come to a gunfight with a pea shooter, don't blame me if your feelings get hurt.
Exactly. Exactly.
But let's see. Next question. So I already kind of talked about the African rhythms and patterns in the art. I feel like we want to lighten up the question. So if you could have your idea live workspace or studio, what would that look like? There's no money's not a factor. You just build or create whatever you want. What would that look like?
Such a good question. I like that question. Man, I've been struggling with that too. Because, how do you plan when everything's shut down? Like, how do you have vision when you feel like everybody's telling you not to have vision right now? But ideally, I think ideal work, living studio space. So yeah, I think that where I'm moving into is that I would love to be surrounded by artists more often and working with them more intentionally. As a person who maybe wasn't drawing and painting since a childhood and it kind of came in later in life, it's been really powerful to see the ways in which it's opened up other ways for me to imagine what I'm trying to do in a way that I didn't get when I went to school for undergrad or grad school. I went to grad school too, and I feel like that was also a traumatic experience for me. I was not into it. I can't talk like them. I don't know how to do the performative academic thing. I really, really don't. And so, but with art, it just felt like, finally, like something, it just clicked. Like it felt like, it was like a dam was plugged up and then, then it came out.
That's awesome.
Something like that. So yeah, so being surrounded by more artists, working with artists more intentionally, really figuring out this whole mutual aid situation, like seeing the way that this year has mapped out and the way that people pivoted from in-person to online. Like, I feel like there's a way that we could be doing this more efficiently, because we all have access to these Zooms and YouTubes and things.
Right.
I don't know what that is yet. I want to talk to you about it, though. I want to talk to a lot of us.
We'll definitely talk offline. Definitely excited about some of the stuff you say here that we definitely need to talk.
Yeah.
Definitely need to connect.
Yeah, I think it's possible.
And so would you be open to sort of moving over to the organizer realm? Not that I'm recruiting you right now on live YouTube.
Look at you. Yeah, it's true. I do have a lot of organizing energy in me, and I do miss that a lot. And so, just curating spaces for us to do our thing in a way that's freeing and
Yes.
then nourishing. That's the other thing that for me is really
Yes.
key. Like it has to be reciprocal nourishment
Mm-hmm.
happening. And if it's not happening, then you got to find where it is.
You definitely do. Well, I really appreciate you joining us tonight. Do you have a website or Instagram that people can find you? Can you shout out your
Yeah, I do.
information?
I put it on the slides,
Bring it
but
back
let me
up,
see.
sis.
Okay, bring it back up. Okay, let me see. Excuse me.
I'm suffering the same thing. Sniffles,
I know what's happening.
allergies. Mine are really severe allergies.
Okay, yeah, so there it is. Instagram at Ani Queens, ANI_KWEENS. And then there's the website at the bottom there, ShaniEaley.com. And then if you liked what you saw with the zine, there's still some zines left. And
Nice.
I can also send you a copy. Just send me your address.
And how much on Venmo should they send for a copy?
So right now I have a sale that's going on. So if they actually purchase through the website, they'll get 30% off.
Okay, nice. But typically, how much are your zines?
Typically, these ones were a little bit more expensive because I had to go to the copy place and they was playing games with me.
Oh,
But typically they're 15 to 20.
that's cool. That's cool. So, what's your Venmo, just in case people want to tip you?
Um, Shani SHANI dash Ealey, so EALEY.
Sweet. Thank you so much for joining us again. I appreciate you. I
Thank
love what you're
you.
doing. It reaffirms me, and we definitely need more of that in 2020. So
Thank
let's
you.
see.
Thank you for holding it down,
Of
AV.
course, of course. And do we have any questions from the YouTube chat? I don't think so. Awesome. So we're gonna say goodnight.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye. Have a
Appreciate
good
it.
night.
Bye. Oh man. Yeah, Elle, are you still there?